Welcome, everyone. This is the fourth annual Music Entrepreneur Conference. And my name is Tricia LeClaire. I'm a member of the Hamilton Music Advisory Team, but also I'm the Executive Director of the Hamilton Children's Choir. So welcome, everyone, today. We're so pleased to host this conference this year. It's in an online format with all of the topics that focus around the theme of releasing your own album. As we start today's discussion panel, we want to acknowledge that as host of the conference, the City of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabeg to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by Between the Lakes Purchase between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations. Today, the City of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, North America, and we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. So with these intentions in mind, we gather as members of the Hamilton music industry to share our knowledge and experiences. Our focus is to support the development and retention of Hamilton musicians and the growing music industry in Hamilton. Musicians are recognized as core creators within the local music industry, and without you, the industry cannot grow or thrive. We thank you for your work and creativity. We want to see you grow and succeed as entrepreneurs and musicians, which is why we're organizing this annual professional development event. The annual conference is possible through the work of the volunteers of the Hamilton Music Advisory Team and the Musician Subcommittee with support from City of Hamilton staff. And a special thank you to the City of Hamilton staff for all their hard work. Today is the fourth of 5 discussions happening as part of the conference, and I'm happy to introduce the moderator for today's topic, Erica Commisso, who is the music director at 93.3 CFMU FM. Welcome, Erica. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Erica. As mentioned, I am the music director over at CFMU. I've been there for coming on 3 years now. It's been about 2.5, and 1.5 of those have been as music director. Just so a little bit about what I do. I'm the one that kind of sifts through all the new releases, as well as all of the artist submissions and playlists those for you guys. So it's been really fun, really amazing, and I'm super excited to dive into today's panel. So today we are talking about marketing as a musician and how to best promote your new release. Because these discussions are aimed at emerging or self-produced musicians who are doing the work themselves, we know that you might not have that big of a budget or really any budget available to market a new release. So we're hoping to give you the tools today in order to do so. During this conversation, we're going to talk a lot about social media and digital strategies. We also don't want to forget about the tried and true methods or more traditional methods to marketing as well. So we're going to touch base on those a little bit. We've brought some local artists together as well as industry reps to share their experiences on how to market on a low to no budget. And joining me to talk about this today are our speakers, Luckystickz, or Lucky for short, Sheri Sinclair, and Dre Powell. Today's conversation is going to last a little around 40 minutes, and we're going to save the last 15 minutes for a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please put them in the Zoom chat. And if you're watching on the Facebook Live, please comment your questions, and we're going to get to those at the end. So that's a little bit about me and about the discussion today. I'm now going to give our panelists the floor to do a brief intro of themselves. So Luckystickz, let's start with you. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go to Sheri, and then we'll go to Dre.
All right, hello everyone. So my name is Luckystickz, Lucky for short. I am an artist, musician, singer, songwriter, producer, and yeah, kind of all arounder. But that's what I do within the music industry. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to sharing with you uh, everything I know about marketing and the whole branding and what to do after you've kind of released or put out your album and now you got to push it to the next level.
Awesome. Thanks so much. We're going to jump to Sheri. Sheri, can you hop on and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Sheri Sinclair. I own my own company called Sinclaire Creative Solutions, based here in Hamilton, Ontario. I work with Juno Award winner Catherine MacLellan. I manage her, as well as working with other artists and projects to take their albums and release them around the world with all their teams. My background comes from concert promoting, major labels, working at radio, doing publicity and marketing across the country. I also have over 10 years experience in digital content and content delivery. That's me, thanks.
Awesome. And Dre?
Yeah, hi, my name's Dre Pale. I'm a creator and entrepreneur. My background is in songwriting. I currently operate a digital marketing agency out of the GTA called Cross Group, and I host a TV segment on Rogers TV called Candy and Commerce. And over the last year have become a TikTok influencer in the food and snack space, working with all sorts of brands and promotions on TikTok.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. So we are going to jump right into our questions. So just for reference for the panelists, I think the best bet is we're just going to start with Dre. I'm going to ask one question, and then you guys can hop in whenever you feel is right. And just for the sake of Zoom and video calls and such, maybe if you just want to like give a little hand raise or something to signify that you're going to jump in, that would be great, just to keep things running smoothly. So the first question today is, do you need a marketing strategy? Why do you think you do or you don't? And what do you think the core elements are?
Is that for me?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So, I mean, if you want people to hear your music, then you should probably have a marketing strategy. If you're just doing it for fun and it's just like a pastime, then not necessary. But yeah, absolutely. If you want people to get your music, to hear your music, I would almost say it's more important than the music itself, because I mean, we see so many examples of pretty bad music that gets pretty far and makes careers for people and helps them make a living. So I think it's super important to dedicate time to making a marketing strategy.
Great. And are there any core elements to a marketing strategy that you would suggest?
Well, I come from the social media world. So like for me, my go-to is always looking at social media because number one, I think it's, especially right now, the most affordable thing that we can use. I mean, besides the fact that Instagram ads are more affordable than things like billboards and TV commercials, something like TikTok is literally free. And the organic reach is insane. You can literally have 10, 100 followers, a small following, and you can have a viral video that can honestly change your life. And I mean, I've seen it firsthand where I've put a lot of time into TikTok and it's had the ability to literally shape the different things that I'm doing. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. And Lucky or Sheri, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. In addition, is really just understanding how each platform also works. So we know that if we're marketing on Instagram, it's going to be certain things that work on Instagram that might not work on Twitter, certain things that work on Twitter that might not work on TikTok, and et cetera, et cetera. So just really understanding how each platform works so that when you are kind of cross promoting on all of the social platforms that you should be doing, don't leave any platform out because every platform has its own audience. I have a lot of people on Facebook who are not as active on Instagram and vice versa. So by understanding, okay, my audience on Facebook reacts certain ways and certain things work on Facebook, and having a strategy, a core strategy that works or that you understand that works on each platform will definitely help you than just dropping everything on everything exactly the same way and expecting it to have any type of turnover or the same results on each platform.
And Sheri?
I would just like to point out right now that there's a difference between marketing strategy, a marketing plan, and advertising. So a marketing strategy is how you want to go to market and present yourself and everything around that, including your branding, including where you want to go and the people you want to talk to. A marketing plan is where you write down, hopefully, and communicate with other team members the tactics of how you're going to get that strategy out into the world. And then advertising itself is when you're actually spending money along the way. And I would say that the most important thing about a marketing plan is that it's not just about advertising. Dre and Lucky already brought up that there's lots of places that you can go to where you still can make a plan on how you release content that doesn't necessarily have to cost you money, but it's still part of your plan. So you need to think about it and create the content with a reason in mind. And that reason should always go back to your marketing strategy.
Can I just expand on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what Sheri said is super important, because what you alluded to, it seemed, is that you kind of, in my opinion too, is as an artist, you kind of are always marketing yourself. And if you finish a song and you're like, hey, it's time to start marketing, I feel like you're doing it wrong. I think it's important to be kind of providing value to the audience and building that community, especially before you release something. Because if you're always just, reaching out to the audience or making some content when you have something that you want them to buy, I feel like it's a recipe for disaster. So it's like, I think that's super important to keep in mind too, is building some sort of a marketing strategy that's happening before the release. So people can always come to your page and know that, hey, every week, every day, I'm going to get some form of value. Then when you have something you've released, it's kind of a lot easier to say, hey, by the way, guys, I released this new thing. It means so much to me if you checked it out.
For sure. And we're definitely going to jump into that a little farther into our conversation. So these are amazing starting points. We talked a little bit about, obviously, social media. So when we're using social media to market ourselves, what do you think are the basic accounts that somebody should have? Anyone can jump on in.
Okay.
Lucky, why don't you start?
Definitely, you want to have your Instagram, Facebook, basically everything, to be honest with you, but Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok for sure. And yeah, I don't know about Snapchat at this point, but I guess it doesn't hurt to have a Snapchat. I know DJ Khaled did really well with the Snapchat platform, but I think right now the big ones right now are definitely Instagram, TikTok, and if you have your Facebook again. And I think a lot of it, again, like I said, is just understanding how each platform works and how the audience on each platform interacts with those different social media bases. So for instance, if you're on Twitter, having a strategy for Twitter is you've got to tweet a lot. You have to tweet every single day. You got to be kind of aware of trends and stuff. And this kind of comes back to what Dre had said previously, is like when you're trying to build an audience, which is the reason why you are on social media, to let people know about what you're doing, you don't want to just build followers, which is kind of what the base of what we think social media is all about. You actually want to build a community. And by building a community, that means that you're constantly interacting with that community. So you're relatable. You're using trending topics and putting a twist onto that, or you're collaborating with other people via these different social media platforms. You're using hashtags for Instagram. And basically, yeah, you're just being consistent on all of the different platforms and understanding, okay, on Twitter, the best strategy is, tweeting a lot, being aware of trends, or being an expert on a trend. When it comes to Instagram, taking great photos, writing great captions, using the video options, the reels, the different things like that. When it comes to TikTok, understanding how to make videos and understanding that TikTok might have a younger demographic, but now a lot of people are starting to use more of the TikTok. You could put your music on TikTok. So just really starting to understand how each platform works. You should be on all of them. You should have all of them. But as long as you understand how they work, then it'll be extra efficient. You'll be extra efficient on each platform when you do have them and when you are using them.
Did either of you have anything to add to that?
I do. I have a couple things. And the first thing I would say is it's really important, and the sooner you do this, the better off you'll be, is no matter what platforms you're choosing, make sure that you have a music page versus your personal page. Don't try build up your personal page and then try to convert everybody over, and try to make sure that where possible, you have the same handle on each of the platforms as much as you can. That's not always possible because sometimes people have the same name as you. So that's why you'll see people say put official behind their names or different things, but try your best to get all of the different platforms to have a music profile, which is separate than your personal one that shows maybe, going to a family gathering. You might not have that strategy within your music. So you might, have different looks and feels that you want to put out into the world. So that's really important. The other thing is that you need to just start somewhere and start with where your fans are, and then start exploring with the other platforms, unless you're familiar with all the platforms right away. But I find that sometimes people just get overwhelmed by it all. So start doing what you can, where you can, in a consistent way. And there are places you can get tips and tricks of how many times you're supposed to do it, what time you're supposed to do it. But the reality is, do your very, very best to just be consistent in your messaging and make it what you want to put out into the world, and try to make it engaging so people want to write back to you, so you can grow your fan bases in all those areas.
Yeah, I think both you guys basically said everything I'd want to say. I think I just want to expand a little bit on what Sheri was just saying. And I think, everyone's going to have their favorite platforms, but at the end of the day, it's about you as an artist, about what you're going to be able to consistently do, because all these platforms have one thing in common, and that's consistency is so important. So, I'm going to give my advice on what I think I do the best. So, I love TikTok and Instagram to be my top two. But if you're very good with words and you tweet like an animal, you love writing all day, it's better for you to go all out on Twitter, as opposed to you trying your best to go on TikTok, hating your life. I'm a big fan of you enjoying being a musician too. I think we're doing it because we're passionate about it. So, I try to do things with anyone I'm working with that's sustainable, especially if you're like, hey, I don't have a budget, what can I do? It's what you enjoy the most that you can do every day. So I think that's a huge, huge thing, is what are you actually going to do consistently and what do you enjoy?
Awesome. And so
I could just add one more piece.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Just to what both Dre and Sheri were saying, and what we've all been saying when it comes to the consistency. Sometimes it may feel, because there's so many platforms, and sometimes there's new platforms that come out, and like Sheri was saying, it could be overwhelming. And like Dre is saying, kind of pick the one that you do best. I agree with all of that. Something that I've used before in the past, and a few people have used before, is a hub where you can kind of pre-plan these posts. So for instance, because you want to be creating and not sitting behind your phone all day tweeting or doing different type of social media posting every single day on every single platform, using something like Hootsuite, Hootsuite. Hootsuite is a good tool that you can kind of plan out. Let's say you want to plan it out on a Sunday. This is what my week is going to look like when it comes to my social media marketing strategy. So on Twitter, I'm going to pre-plan that this will be tweeted on this day at this time, on Instagram, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So check that out as well, because that can probably help you to also be consistent without you actually having to always be behind your phone and remembering, okay, I got to tweet this, I got to post this, I got to do that. There's a easier way that you might be able to pre-plan out your strategy for the week so that it looks like you're consistent, but you really did everything kind of like a meal prep on the weekend, and you're spending the rest of your time actually creating.
Awesome. Yeah, and that jumps right into the next question that I was going to touch base on. So I guess, do you plan your content for social media, or do you create it organically? Is there like a plan that you have when you're posting? Sheri, did you want to start this one?
So I got distracted by the poll.
So did I.
Sorry, Erica. I just want to make sure I'm answering the right question. Could you just rephrase?
Yes, of course, of course.
Thanks.
So we touched base on planning content for social media. So do you have any tips and tricks for planning? Do you not plan, and do you post organically?
So I guess that's important to talk about is you'll hear people talking about organic or paid posts. And when you're starting out, try to be organic as much as possible, because soon as you start putting money towards things, usually whatever platform it is will recognize that all of a sudden there's advertising dollars. And so sometimes they won't always have your reach go quite as far. There'll be sometimes important posts that you do want to actually boost up and get more people to look at, but just don't do that as an everyday occurrence. And also I would try to see what the reaction is organically, and organically just means naturally in the world, like how many people are looking at it, and then put the money in. Don't always just go straight out of the gate that way. Otherwise it'll just cost you lots and lots of money and more money to get more views, which you don't want to get yourself in that spot. I would say for planning on content, you just, when you're posting, just you can reuse content on different platforms, but I believe, Lucky's really said it quite a few times. Talk to that platform. So what you might say on Twitter with the same exact like image or video is not always going to be the same thing, or how you want them to react to retweet you or anything like that. So just really look at your platforms, look at artists who are similar to you and how they're using those platforms. That's always your key. Take a look around. Who do you like? How are they using the platforms? Can it be something that works for you? And try to make sure you're creating content that works that way too.
Awesome. Lucky, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I feel like I've kind of said everything on that of just, yeah, having the question was having a strategy on each platform, right? Or coming up with a pre-plan. Yeah, I think the best thing, like I said, is just to, if you can, kind of do a social media prep over a weekend. That's the best way that I try and do it. Or like Dre said, just kind of pick your top ones and really speak to those top ones, and then of course, learn the other ones if that's what you want to do, but see where you have the most activity and plan out the best content for that. And don't always feel like you always have to come up with fresh, brand new content that is completely yours. As I kind of said before, feel free to also put your own twist on a trend. So if there's a cat meme that's going around somewhere and you have something that's relatable to that cat meme that you can have the cat playing your song or something, something silly, you can always refresh and recycle somebody else's content and put your own twist on it, or collaborate with somebody else and join together to put out content.
Yeah, I think you guys basically said it, but I guess just to expand on that a little bit, for me, I'm a huge fan of scheduling and planning. Like, I'm obsessed with whiteboards and kind of plotting out what I want to do. And of course, life happens. I like to have my whiteboard session with, whether it's with my clients or with myself, at the beginning of the month, and we go over what our goals are for the month. But we leave room because things happen, especially depending on your industry, whether you're just focusing on music or expanding in other things. New news happens, and I like to leave room for that and make sure that we're not like, hey, we're sticking exactly to the schedule, this new thing happened, but we're going to ignore it. So I have my schedule, and I try to pre-record as much as I can 1 month in advance. So for October, we were recording stuff in September and so on for the rest of the year. But I think it's super important to work in the new trending topics, because I think that's kind of the bigger way to, if you're looking to have a video blow up on TikTok or on Instagram, if you can capitalize on those trends, it's a huge thing. So being flexible, planning is important, especially when you have a busy life, but also kind of working on the fly is also important. So a little bit of both, I'd say.
I would also just back up, like Dre, that was a super important point, giving space to allow to see what else comes up. In the same token, when you have scheduled everything to try to make your life easier, you still have to take a look, because there might be a big news item where all of a sudden something that you've planned is now in poor taste. So you
Yes.
wouldn't say it that way. So you need to make sure that that doesn't go live. And so that's a huge, huge thing. Not only do you plan, but also if you've already put something into the system that's going to go live, what that schedule is. So if you have to go in and change it, that you have the ability to do that.
That's a huge point, especially like even just what Lucky was saying earlier. Hootsuite's a great tool, but also making sure you are on top of it for that same reason, because you could hypothetically really ruin your career in some way if you put something out that's in bad taste.
Yeah. And since we're talking about planning, I would like to jump into marketing plans for folks who have different budgets. So what would you recommend to a musician with no budget, or a musician with, let's say, $100 or $500, and where do you think they should focus those marketing efforts? Dre, we can start with you on this one.
For me, I mean, I've mentioned it earlier, but TikTok is like a major opportunity that I don't know how long we're going to have the opportunity to do it. As more people invest in TikTok, there's more money into it, more brands into it, and the organic reach is going to go away. I think TikTok right now, especially if you have $0 to $100 on your budget, taking TikTok really seriously, I think it has the ability to change your life. And not even just to say that, I think if you can buckle down and go hard on TikTok and post 1 to 4 times a day, you can evolve your career and change it for the rest of your life. And if you have any marketing dollars, a small amount, I would, if we're talking about advertising specifically, the best bang for your buck is Instagram story ads, because they get the most reach for the smallest amount of money. So taking the time to create something, preferably video. Video also gets more reach in terms of advertising. And I think it's more engaging and just more fun to look at from a personal perspective. But if I had $100, I'd put that into Instagram story ads, and I'd go super hard on TikTok organically, no money into TikTok, just building my profile on that.
Awesome, thanks. And Lucky?
Yeah, I guess there's a few different places where we can go and start with. Of course, we have if you have no budget at all, your first kind of fans are your family and friends. And people often overlook the old school approach of emailing, right? Do you have an email list? And that's always a big thing, because you can do some email marketing. You have a new release coming out. It costs you absolutely $0 to send out an email to all your family and friends and say, hey, I have a new song out. Can you check it out? Old school, but it's still effective. Now there's even text messaging. There's an app. I think you have to pay a little bit for it. I'm not sure, but there's an app that's called Superphone, where you can actually text message whenever you have a show in, whenever you have a single exclusive to everybody that you have a text message, everybody that you have their phone number and have signed up for your service. So they'll get a number that's generated through this app, and you're able to actually have one-on-one communication with all of your fans, your audiences via text message. And everybody is always on their phone texting, so it's going straight to their phone right away. And then if you have a little bit of a budget, Instagram ads, Facebook ads, and sometimes even influencer marketing. So if you know someone who has an audience, an engaged audience, an active audience, and you know that, if you're able to say, hey, I have a small budget, I have $100. Is it possible for me to pay you $100 for you to do like a huge kind of just promo ad type of shout out, whatever thing on your platform to all of your, audience members? That's one way that you can use somebody else's audience and their influence with a little bit of a budget to say, hey, can you help me out? Because I'm pushing this single or this album or whatever it is that you're pushing music wise.
I would just really keep going with the community aspect. So if you don't have any money, if you are in the music industry and you really want to make a living in the music industry, then you need to know platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, and YouTube itself. With all of those platforms, they have music subscription services. And that's where your music's going to ultimately end up being released on. So you need to make sure that they usually have places where people follow you. And so when you have followers on any of those platforms, that's how the back end algorithms for those streaming services know that people want to hear your music. And the more followers you have on that, the more all of a sudden you're getting put into different automated playlists. So people from all over the world can start hearing your songs. I would say make sure that you're not just building up your social profiles, which don't usually always give you direct money for your art. Make sure you're not ignoring the places that actually pay you to have your art on them, even if it's not as much money as selling a full album, vinyl, or CD. It's still a place where people can hear. And if you grow those communities through your socials, then you're investing in yourself. And all you have to do is tell people about it. Like, hey, follow me on YouTube, follow me on Spotify, follow me on Amazon Music. Also with Google and also Amazon, they both have Alexa and Google Minis all over the place. So go into people's houses, connected devices, and like you can even ask Siri to play you music, right? So there's lots of ways for you to be able to get your music out there just by making sure that you start also making that fan base, whether you're starting with family and friends or not, to actually follow you on those places.
Awesome. Was there anything anyone else wanted to add before we moved on?
I'd love to just add one more thing just to expand on the part of free things that we can do to market ourselves. And I think an important thing that I wanted to mention was with Instagram, being not just Instagram, but Instagram specifically, being social on social media, I think is so important, and not just when you're releasing something. And I mentioned Instagram because Instagram, you can literally put Hamilton, Ontario in the search bar and it'll show you the top posts, the most liked posts in the area happening right now. Those are the influential people from the city happening in real time. And I think getting in the habit of engaging with these influential people in your city, engaging with searching your hashtags related to your genre, and then leaving meaningful comments, not, hey, check out my song's amazing. Like they're posting something related to their life. You're commenting how it relates to your life and kind of building a friendship over time doing this. That's how you gain a follower, but that's how you gain a member of your community who starts to care about you and see you as someone who supports them. And then as you start to support people, we naturally want to support those people who support us back. And some people don't, but for the most part, I think it really does lead to making friends online. And I know myself as someone who's done it, I've made a lot of friends through doing that, and it's free. So I think working that in, can you do it for half an hour a day, 20 minutes a day? If you're consistent, 20 minutes a day, it can lead to a lot of great things. So I think that's an important thing, I think, for people to consider.
So we touched base a little bit earlier. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Erica. Dre, that was really great. And I think one of the key things I wanted to highlight about what you just said, which is super I don't want people to gloss over is that is something that you can do. But Dre made a point of making it authentic. You're not just doing it to say, hey, check out my song. You're actually investing in what that person's talking about and contributing to the conversation. It's not just about you.
Absolutely.
So talking about, I mean, authenticity, building a community, I just wanted to ask how important you think the messaging is in regard to marketing a release or just marketing yourself as a brand or on your platforms. Lucky, if you wanted to touch base on that first.
Yeah, you definitely want to be aggressively genuine to who you are. You know, aggressively genuine, meaning that, you know, be exact. Whenever you are yourself, that's when you flourish the most, right? And as everybody has been saying, when you are not just seeing this as a transactional relationship, where it's like, okay, I'm going to just reach out or I'm just going to say something to you when I need something from you, but you are letting people know, well, this is who I am, but you're also building community, you're building friendships online. Something that I personally do on my social media is I share personal things. So I share, you know, my if I have family stuff, and everybody's comfort level is different. But for me personally, I like to share things about my family. I like to share things about just who I am apart from the music. And in that way, it all kind of ties into the brand of me as an individual, because before I'm an artist, I'm a human being, right? And before you're an artist, you're a human being. So therefore, you want people, if you're comfortable with that, sharing that piece of you online, you want people, or it's helpful if people kind of know who you are. So therefore, um, I always like to say that whatever you do needs to be on brand. So if all of a sudden you decide, okay, well, I'm going to be online promoting something and that something has nothing to do with what your branding is, then you're now off brand, and it no longer ties into what your overall messaging is. So it's helpful if you're able to be the same person in real life that you are on social media, because then you can just constantly transfer, you know, your real self and kind of show different parts of your real self online, that is the same of who you are in real life. So definitely being genuinely aggressive with your marketing, and being true to who you are, and also being genuine when you're interacting with other people, that is not transactional but is actually a communal thing that you're doing, is very helpful.
Awesome, thank you. Dre, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I think what Lucky said is absolutely right in terms of being genuine is the absolute most important thing when you're building your brand. And honestly, just for your overall happiness, if you're faking something, you're going to hate your life. You could do it for a few months, maybe a few years, but it's going to eventually come crashing on you, and it's just not going to work. I think it's also important to make sure that when we're talking about authenticity, it's also like, I know for myself, when I first started off, doing things that you're not afraid to be yourself. I think having that conversation about, like, don't be afraid. Hey, if you like this thing, I mean, I just kind of reinvented my brand getting into like snacks and food. And I bet you if I told people at the beginning, hey, I'm going to start promoting snacks and food, they'd be like, what the hell are you doing, sort of thing. But I enjoy it. And I've been able to take that and kind of reinvent my brand, and it's made me happier as a creator. And I think that that's an important thing that we should have a conversation about, is that, hey, if you enjoy this, there's definitely going to be people who say don't do it, but if it feels right to you, you have to push through that, and it will be rewarding in the end.
And Sheri?
They're both 100% correct. The one thing maybe we should also focus on is giving yourself enough time. Today, when you're putting out a release, once you release your album, EP, single into the world, especially at the digital retailers, it's done for them, so you really have to take time. And a lot of people set it up for like, 2 to 4 months in advance before the albums come out, before everything else comes out, because you can't go backwards. So you really need to make sure that if you do have something really important that you want to talk to, that you're gearing all of your marketing and you're setting it up with enough time for people to start following and anticipate and be ready for it for when it shows up. And that will help you get placements on playlists through the streaming services. But if they don't see any action kind of happening around it, then there's, they get so much music every week. It's really, why do they pick this song over another song? It's really just about what's happening usually on social.
Awesome. So we've got time, I think, for about one more question from me, and then we'll just field for some questions and finish off with that Q&A period. So the last question that I'm going to ask, just in general, what is the most common advice you think you would give an artist looking to just improve their overall marketing? Anyone can hop in.
I think that I think we've done a pretty good job of like drilling it home to be who you are and to make sure that you start with the people that and grow your fan base where you can. The most important thing will always be your fan base. Those are the people who are always going to be behind you. The other thing I would say is there are a lot of great tools that you can get access to. Like there's creator tools and creator hubs that show you how to work like the best YouTube channel. You can have all these different social media places where they help you they call you a creator. And so you're just a music creator and you just have to see and take the best practices and try to look. They have academies where you can take free classes and like just spend the time knowing what's happening out there.
I think for me, a big piece of advice that I wish someone told me earlier on is how long things take, and not to get obsessed over the numbers and how important consistency is. I feel like it was really helpful to me to tell myself, my job is to create. I wanted to grow on TikTok. My job was to make TikTok videos. And I did everything I could to make 1 to 4 videos a day and not focus on the numbers. Your job is to create. If you get yourself into the habit of creating, some videos are going to do horrible. Some videos are going to flop. You're going to get no comments. And then, you keep doing it consistently. And that day will come where people start to notice you, but it takes time. And I think that's just something I think is important to say, because I think a lot of artists get discouraged, especially when we see all over our social media, people popping, this kid's 12 years old and has a bajillion followers and has $1 million. And you're like, but I've been doing it forever. What's happening? And I think everyone has their time. Don't compare yourself to people. And just be patient and keep doing it. And network. People is like the key to everything.
Yeah, I love everything that Dre and Sheri said. I think as well, just to add to what's already so full is thinking about when you're thinking about marketing overall and music and your brand, something that I like to think about is what is the impact that I've made after I've left the room, after I've put out the project, or for instance, something that I like to do is I have a logo for my brand, and I like to put my logo on everything because one, it helps me to not feel in that kind of what do you call it, that inferior I can't think of the term right now, but basically when you're an artist, sometimes you're putting yourself out there, especially if you're a new artist, you're putting yourself out there, and it takes a little bit of time to click in that you can actually do this for real. Because
Are you
thinking,
looking for imposter syndrome?
Imposter, thank you, syndrome.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
I know that one.
Yeah. There's so many times where, I'm on a stage or I walk into a room and I'm just kind of thinking, wow, if they really knew who I was, if they really knew in my mind, right? If they really knew who I was, they think I'm in the wrong spot, or they wouldn't think that I'm worth being here. And I think a huge part of that marketing is how you really feel about yourself inwardly ends up coming out on the outward, and the outward trajectory, even if it's how you present yourself and present your music and present your entire brand. So when you really start to become confident in knowing that, you are, you can do this, and you're doing a great job, your music sounds great, and now it's out here, you're putting yourself out through your music or whatever and saying, okay, world, listen to this product that I have. When you truly believe in your product and you truly believe in yourself, then it helps to kind of, translate in that way after you've left the room, to people to say, like, I really enjoy that their music because I really enjoyed them as a person, and they can feel that you really, feel right and good within yourself. So within your marketing, it ends up seeping in if you really lock in and hone into really believing in your brand and your marketing, and really stamping that all over the place. So it helps you to constantly also feel like, yes, I am the artist, I am the performer, I am the recording artist, and the world can really benefit from hearing something that hopefully they will relate to.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering those questions from me. We have about 15 minutes for audience questions, and we have a few. So we have one from Jeff. Jeff, if you're on Zoom and you wanted to hop on video or turn on your audio and ask your question, feel free. Just type in the box that you're going to jump on, and we'll be waiting for you to pop on. Jeff is in bed. I can read the question for you if you'd like. No, not a problem. So Jeff asks, I'm new to the music industry, but am very familiar with marketing strategy and plans, but I don't know the industry, so catch 22. Where should I start in learning the mechanics of the industry?
Well,
Sheri, did you want to start?
I get it's a bit of a tricky question. Thanks, Erica. Sorry, I jumped in.
No problem.
I feel like what you have to do is first figure out, where do you release your music? What are the platforms? What are the places that you release your music, and how does that work? You have to decide, are you releasing it independently, or are you going to try to get a label to release it for you, or a distributor to release it for you? They're all different deals. There's also knowing what is recorded master rights and what is your composition sync rights. So there's so many things to learn all at once, and that is in itself can also get overwhelming. So just start following, like, there's a blog out of Toronto called FYI Music. And it has a lot of the Canadian music news. So there's things that are on there. They also give you like factor funding deadlines and just different tidbits, and you'll start seeing some of the things come up, and you'll kind of explore from there. But I would start with like making sure you understand how to get your music to Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, YouTube.
Awesome.
I think also, I mean, we're in a pandemic, so we don't have these events happening, but I think stuff such as Canadian Music Week and Indie Week, I think, are two big ones, especially Canadian Music Week, because everyone from the industry is there, and making sure you're at these big events and taking the time, not just to show up, but there's panels that teach you a lot about the industry. A lot of the industry leaders are the ones leading these panels, and they're from all over the world. And oftentimes, I mean, they have in the middle of the conference, there's like a speed networking thing, and there's real people from the industry there, and you can take 5 minutes and they'll speak with you. I think that's like the sweetest deal ever that you can get, and hopefully that we're out of this pandemic soon and it happens. But following Indie Week and Canadian Music Week, and I know they're doing some online stuff, but going to those when you can, and finding out who these people are and following them on social ahead of time. Don't spam them, but just be familiar with what they're doing, and feel comfortable to approach them in these networking situations. Don't bombard them in person, obviously, when they're not looking to connect.
Also, check out Music Ontario. They're going to be able to support you in any and all of your questions if you become a member. For them, they'll definitely be helping support their members learn more about the industry, and you can ask them questions quite easily.
And SOCAN, if you're not signed up for SOCAN, Google SOCAN first if you're not familiar with it. And yeah, if you're an artist and you're releasing music, you want to be signed up for SOCAN. And they also offer a ton of resources in terms of connecting with people, and they're super helpful.
Awesome. So I'm seeing a bunch more questions in the chat. So considering we have about 10 minutes, I think I'm going to read them off to you panelists. And then maybe if one of you could answer each question, we could kind of maybe get through them faster just to make sure that we get everyone's questions answered. So next we have an audience question. So I'm assuming this is someone probably from the Facebook live stream from Sean Jones asking, what types of content should artists make to break through the clutter?
In my opinion, it should be what's unique to you. I'm not a fan of chasing the trend. I think, you know, if you're good at hopping on trends and it's something you enjoy, you can do that. But I think for the most part, people like doing what they enjoy. So working in some things that are popular, but making sure that it's related to you. If you love funk music, doing funk related versions of some of the trending songs, finding ways to bring yourself into the things that are popular as opposed to chasing the trend and, you know, doing a Charlie D'Amelio dance on TikTok when you hate dancing. I would definitely avoid stuff like that. Awesome. I forgot. Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I don't even know if I answered it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm pretty sure you got it covered. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, just the question was, what types of content should an artist make to break through the clutter? So yeah,
yes,
you got it.
I answered it, yeah.
So the next question we have is, let me read through this chat. We have one from Juliana Jones, who is on the Zoom call. If you wanted to hop on, let me know. If not, I can read your question briefly. Okay, how do you hop on? There in the bottom left corner of the screen, there should be a mute button as well as a start video button. So if you wanted to start your video, feel free to do so. If you wanted to just unmute yourself, feel free to do so as well, and you can ask your question on the Zoom call.
Oh, hey, can you guys hear me?
Hello.
Hi, I see some familiar faces, so hello. I just wanted to ask when you guys feel like it would be the most ideal to hire like professionals who are like in the marketing industry.
If you feel like you have the budget, for sure. So the reason why I didn't mention that one was because it was for marketing on a low budget, and usually hiring a PR agent is usually, you know, a higher budget. However, if you feel like you have definitely a product or a brand that you want to basically try and flesh out as much as you can, the PR agent is not necessarily going to give you any guarantees, but because basically it's networking, because they have a much more solid networking base, there are opportunities that hiring PR can, you know, maybe land you, well, in the past, I don't know now with COVID, but you know, some placements on news TV like CHCH, Morning Live to do a music segment, lots of blogs and different things like that. They can get you placements in there. And they might work closely with a radio tracker that can also get you some radio placements as well. So definitely, if you have the higher budget, so probably looking over the $1,000 budget range, then that's
way higher. I think that stuff's expensive.
Depends on who you're working with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there's some that might be nice, and they might let you pay in installments. So you might not have to drop it all one time. I've worked with a PR guy who allowed me to kind of pay over the course of 3 months. It was a 3-month package, and that was that. But yeah, it's when you feel like you have something that's ready to reach the stars type of thing. So it might not be on your first project. Maybe you want to kind of let your first project go organically and see how much traction you can kind of build on your own. And then for your follow-up, or for, you know, your third project that's coming out, if there's a lot of traction already built and you want to continue to build on that traction and have some extra help, that maybe you feel like you can't do on your own, then probably that's when you bring in some bigger guns that might be able to push it to the next level, just to kind of build a snowball off the momentum that you've already built.
Great, thank you. And thank you for jumping on the call with us.
Can I just add one thing?
Oh yeah.
Is Erica, can I add one thing? Is that cool?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll be really quick. I think it's just important to say that no one's going to care about your music more than you. I think that's an important thing. I remember I worked with a publicist on a few projects. It was awesome. It was great. But I do think that at the end of the day, if you don't have the budget, it's expensive. And I really don't, I think there's a notion that like, oh, I'll hire a marketing company. They know like this person and this person, and I'm going to blow up. Like, this is my ticket. I know it's worth it. I'll pay the $3,000 or whatever it is that the person's charging to be your publicist. And then I think that that's not true. I think that it's great to have someone on your team, but you also need to be working just as hard as they are. And they're kind of there to support what you're doing. And I also think that there's a lot of stuff we can do on our own before hiring. I wouldn't jump into it unless you have $5,000 to $10,000 that you won't feel if you lost it.
And sorry, well, I know we're short on time, but Dre, that's a great point. Because also, if you don't have a lot going on, because really what the publicist is doing is taking what you have and basically amplifying what you already have. So if you just have a single and that's about it, and you're just like, hey, can you push the single? You can do a lot of that, what they would do on your own. But if you have, let's say you have shows coming up as well, and let's say that you put out your music video and your music video hit, 25,000 in the first week or whatever, now you're giving them a lot of stuff to work with that might work out in your favor. But if you don't really have much to offer them, only a album or a single or whatever, then it can feel like a waste of money for sure.
Erica, I have a quick thing about this. Since that's actually what I do, I get hired by people to help put their releases around the world. And so it's really important when you're picking your team. It does get expensive depending how much outreach into the world you need to do. If you're really going to radio, that gets very expensive. Sometimes if you're going to radio in the US, you need like 6 people working your record. That's a lot of people on top of a publicist, on top of a marketing person. So what I would say is most people are approachable. And so when you're first starting out, and this is a panel about not, having a small budget or no budget, see if there's people, that you can just like buy them a coffee and ask them their advice. What are the top things I should do? This is where I am right now. And then when you'll build your team when the story grows, which is exactly what Dre and Lucky were saying to you in advance.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming on. Okay, so our next question is from Jamila, who would like to come on. So when you're ready, you can unmute your mic and hop on video if that is okay with you.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thanks for all the information, and hi to Juliana, who was just on. So it's kind of cool seeing familiar faces. My question is this. How do you know if finding out the balance of posting promotional posts compared to personal, and how do you engage what is a healthy balance? And I guess a attached question onto that is, what kind of things would you post if it's not just music all the time? Because I know we can't just give our fans music all the time. So what would you also suggest to be alternatives to
that? Good question. Hi, Jamila. So I don't know. I once heard, I don't know how true this is, but I once heard that there's like a 70-30 rule or whatever. So 70% business, 30%, keep it personal, whatever the case is. I think if you don't have separate platforms for your personal life and your artist life, and you want to, I don't know if there's a definite, an actual algorithm of, okay, yeah, 70%, 30. I don't even know how you would calculate that, or if you want to be that meticulous to calculating that personally. I think I look at things that go along, again, with my brand, because I'm not, like I said, as an artist, a lot of what I write, a lot of what I put out will also tie into what I do besides being an artist as well. So just a quick story, like 2-second story. For my birthday one year, I wanted to post this photo. It was a really cool looking photo. It was an old school photo. And I was in this, cool outfit, whatever, with this fedora on. And because it was like this old school shot, I had a cigar in my hand. But I've never smoked a cigar in my life. And somebody had to explain to me smoking cigars is a lifestyle, right? And it comes with a certain type of, lifestyle. So is that really what you want to put out there when it's very, again, off brand and inauthentic to who you are? So long story short, whatever you are posting, however many times you are posting it, you want it definitely to continue to be on brand. But you also want people to remember that you still do music too. So if it's like, okay, you're just posting shots of you, partying or with friends or in a bikini or whatever the case is, but you are an artist as well and you only have that one platform, it's like, okay, so is Jamila still putting out music, or is this now we're just looking at her bikini shots from her vacations? You know what I mean? So yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I just want to add one thing. Sorry, I keep doing this. I think just when I post anything, even if it's related to personal, I honestly don't post personal stuff, but that's just because I don't post personal content much. I always think before I post something, what value is the audience getting from this? How can I present this as something of value? Mm-hmm. So even if you're posting about, hey, I want to post about my new baby brother or something like that, tying in how important family is to you and how it's important to your music. A post of you and your brother can turn into, wow, she's really inspired by her family for her music. So I think if you just think, how does this bring value and knowledge to my audience before every time you post, it allows you to frame things that seem like, hey, is this me just flaunting my new outfit? Maybe you love fashion and it's a huge inspiration for your creative side. But the way you spin things, I think, is a real important thing to building your brand and building your message. And it allows you to post those fun photos too. So, because I'm sure there's some stuff that's fun that you want to post.
Thank you, Trey. Thank you, Lucky.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay, so we've got time for one more question. We can post everyone's social credentials after the panel, so if your question didn't get answered, then feel free to reach out if the panelists are comfortable and they can sort of get that conversation going for you. So the last question that I'm going to ask is from Sarah on Facebook. And the question is, how do you gather and track data and analytics on your marketing, and how do you know that it's working?
Well, I think I could jump in there really quickly, and I'm sure Dre has a lot to say about this as well. You probably can't afford some of the bigger analytic platforms that combined everything, but there's a few out there. I would just say you start with the platform you're working on, and there's insights that you can actually see, like how many likes have you gotten, how many people have shared it, how many comments are there. So you can see that automatically, and you can just start putting them in a spreadsheet, and you can start seeing your growth on your own. I mean, you'll right at the beginning be able to see like, oh, I had 3 people like it, to I had 300 people like it, So I wouldn't worry too much about analytics if you're starting out right at the beginning and you don't have a lot of engagement. But once your engagement starts going, then you really use the insights from the platforms you're using before you start paying money for bigger firms or bigger options to do things. I'm sure, Dre, you probably have some thoughts about this as well.
Yeah, I mean, you covered, I think, the most important part, but I think the only thing I would add is these platforms, definitely like Facebook, TikTok, have the analytics built into them. So once you run a campaign, organically or paid, you can see some data on, hey, who engaged with this, how many people did this reach. But I think it's important to reiterate that, especially if you're starting out, you can't get obsessed with these numbers because they're going to be low at the beginning. That's just a part of it. There was one thing else I wanted to add. I'm not sure. I think that's just the most important thing. Oh, your Facebook pixel. That's what I wanted to say. Make sure a lot of people, when they're asking for advice in terms of advertising, they don't have their pixel set up. And I feel like it's such a small thing, but it's super important, especially for retargeting people that are actually fans of yours. So if you don't have that set up, it's a Google away how to set up my Facebook pixel for advertising. And it's a real big help.
Awesome. Great. So I think we're going to stop there for today. I just wanted to say thank you so much to all of today's speakers for being here. Are there any projects that any of you would like to plug or promote before we end the conversation? Nothing?
Follow on TikTok if you want to see some fun videos. And the show airs that I host on Rogers airs every Thursday at today. There's a show today at 9:30 p.m.
Awesome. Great. So thank you so much to the audience for registering. Remember that this is the 4th out of 5 discussions. So there is one more discussion for the conference tomorrow. And tomorrow, that is Friday, October 23rd at 3 p.m. You can join the My Album Is Done Now What conversation. So that one's going to touch base on talking about different ways to promote your work or engage your audience once your album is released. Registration for that is open until 8:30 p.m. tonight, and you can visit hamilton.ca/music conference to sign up for that Zoom discussion. And you can also watch the conversation as well as this one and all of the previous ones from this conference on the Facebook account as well at Ham on Music. And thank you guys so much and have a wonderful rest of the week.
Great
Thanks
job,
so much,
Erica.
guys.
Thank you.